Hey guys, I'm going to show you a crazy match between Hikaru Nakamura, one of the strongest chess grandmasters in the world, and Komodo, the chess engine that was the strongest in 2016. This is the year the match took place. The Komodo engine had an official rating of over 3,300. Now here it says 3,200, but I think it's inaccurate. It's actually 3,300 rated, and it has demolished all its rivals, even Stockfish back then. Nowadays, Stockfish is the top engine, but in 2016, Komodo was on top. And obviously, no human could ever compete against Komodo on equal terms. So, organizers of the match decided to have Hikaru play 4 games against Komodo with odds. The first game was played with a pawn and a move odds. So this is the starting position. Black has no f7 pawn, and Hikaru goes first. The second game starts with the position reversed. Komodo has white, and Hikaru has black, and white has no f2 pawn. The third game starts from this position, where Komodo plays white and has no rook on a1, and Hikaru has no knight on b8, but has his rook on b8, so he has an extra exchange, rook for a knight. And also you can see the real rating of Komodo here, 3368, pretty big rating. Hikaru was just 2787. He is today, by the way, approximately of the same rating. And the fourth game, Hikaru had this. He had 4 moves odds. So he could move not just like one e4, but he could go e4, d4, c4, and knight f3. He could have chosen other moves. By the way, I don't know, maybe it was not permitted for him to go, instead of d4 and knight f3, to go just e4, bishop c4, queen h5, and the queen takes f7 checkmate, scholar's mate. That would be funny. Probably that was not permitted, but otherwise, yeah, he had such a huge advantage with 4 moves to make before Komodo even starts waking up and attacking him, trying to slay the knight against the dragon. So, do you think Hikaru stood a chance? Do you think Hikaru had a real chance to defeat such a monster? In fact, he did, and many forecasts were ambivalent about the chances. So some people said it's around equal with such exchange. Others said that maybe Komodo is a bit stronger, even with odds. So let's see how it all went. It's fascinating. All games were crazy. They were played with almost classical time control. I think 45 minutes per game with some time increment after each move. So it was enough to have some think. And Hikaru played like a beast, or like a knight against the dragon. You can choose the metaphor. So let's see the first game. Komodo is playing without the f7 pawn. And Hikaru opens up with one e4. And you know what? e5 is a bad move. Because if you go e5, you actually have a losing position. You see Stockfish says +5. Because queen h5 check is a fork. If you go g6, this is a fork to the king and the rook. And the other legal move is king e7, which is also horrible because you will just get checkmated. This is like a classical checkmate, like here, 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 h4, and checkmate within a couple of moves. So e5 is a mistake in this position. Obviously, Komodo is too strong to make such a mistake. Komodo likes the French. My favorite opening with black against 1e4, so I agree with this choice. And Hikaru goes d4, and after d5, I would probably go e5, try to play the French with one extra pawn. I think it's a great idea, or maybe knight c3, also a good move recommended by Stockfish. But Hikaru decides, you know what, I'm going to exchange and I'm going to check you. And the thing is that he's forcing an exchange of queens, because this is, again, a fork. But now you can go queen e7 and pin the queen, so not to lose the rook, black has to exchange the queens. And Hikaru goes into an endgame where he's up a pawn. Good strategy, I think, because computers are too good with queens. They can attack you. Doesn't matter if they don't have pawns. They will attack you. And without a queen, it's unlikely that the computer delivers a checkmate. Or is it? So let's see. Bishop f4, attacking the pawn. Bishop g7 counter-attacking. You know, it's a good lesson for you. If something is attacked, some piece of yours, you can counter-attack opponent's piece, not necessarily defend yours. So Komodo is aggressive. c3, protecting this pawn. c5. This is a sacrifice, another pawn. So 2 pawns up for white. But some compensation for black. Knight e7 attacks the pawn. Bishop d6 is an inaccuracy, but I can understand this move. Hikaru tries to protect his pawn, and he is two pawns up. He has a nice position. What could go wrong? Knight f5, attacking the knight, the bishop, and this is what could go wrong. 2 bishops advantage is a very dangerous thing, especially in the hands of a all-powerful chess dragon. So he goes bishop b5, which is a mistake. You shouldn't have allowed this trade, Stockfish says. Stockfish is even stronger than Komodo. a6, he goes back. Castles. Now 2 pawns up, advantage for white still remains, but the king is still in the center. That is a huge problem. Hikaru tries to attack another pawn, and Komodo just gives up the 3rd pawn. Straight up giving up the pawn, but this Stockfish evaluation is around equal, with a minor advantage, plus 0.4 for white, because the attack of black is formidable. Komodo gives up the pawn with check, Hikaru obliges, taken, the king moves back, but still all those pieces are on the back rank, and those bishops, those knights, those rooks are not looking too happy about the pawns that were captured. So knight f3 developing, knight d3, check, king loses its castling rights. Practically all human players would take the pawn here, trying to equalize material, but not Komodo. Komodo develops, which is the best move according to Stockfish. Also, in future, this bishop will maybe attack the king from this square. We will see. So knight d2, Hikaru does not care about this pawn because he knows that he's going to get checkmated if he just protects material. But Komodo doesn't care about this pawn as well. Komodo wants to take this pawn probably. And it gives up this pawn as well. So now, at the moment, Hikaru is plus 4 points in material. 4 pawns up. But 2 of his pawns are hanging. He also has a weak king. This rook is out of the game. This rook is still standing on its starting square. This is not looking good. It's around equal according to Stockfish, but it's very difficult to play this against the computer. But Hikaru, you know, he didn't give up. He never thought it's going to be easy, and he never said that he's going to be an easy prey to the dragon. He moved back. He's trying to exchange pieces. When you are attacked, try to exchange pieces. Also a good rule of thumb. Black doesn't want to exchange. Now he tries to activate the rook. The rook is standing in the corner, so maybe it can get activated via the H file. And it's the best move also according to computer. Hikaru played like a god this game. He was very powerful. So he gave up another pawn, but he's still 2 pawns up. He attacked the bishop. Knight protected the bishop. Here he tries to launch his attack on the H file. Very good move. And g5, strong move, utilizing the fact that this pawn cannot be taken by the knight because this knight guards its counterpart, another knight. And Hikaru takes this pawn. In the chat, he wrote, when making this move, I don't care if I lose. Even if I lose, I'm gonna take all the pawns of this dragon. And that's what he did. He sacrificed the piece, and the forcing variation occurred on the board. So look for this. Takes, 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 takes. And on the board, we see that black has a knight for 3 white pawns. The evaluation of the position is around equal, so Hikaru was right to do that, to avoid any traps. With more pieces on the board, he could have easily lost by checkmate. But can he draw or win or do anything in this game? Let's see. Bishop attacks the knight moves back. Rook is activated and trying to fork those 2 pieces. The bishop moves back. The pawn moves forward. Probably it's gonna die, but it's going to sacrifice itself for the greater good. Rook activates, rook checks, bishop moves back. It's not the best move, but still okay. The pawn is taken, but Hikaru gives this intermediate check, because you cannot take because the rook will fall, so black has to move back. And here Hikaru exchanges and thinks that this is a draw. This is a fortress because black cannot do anything about exchanging those two pawns or losing this pawn, and the rest is a matter of technique, and Hikaru does just that. He exchanges the pawns, then he exchanges the bishop for the knight. Well, black could have refused this trade, but still it would be a drawn position. And here, Komodo thought maybe it can break through, but it cannot. Actually, in this position, in this position, I think, they agreed to a draw. Because if bishop takes here, king takes, and there are no pawns left for black, so it's going to be a draw. Or if here, I think here the draw was agreed. Yeah, in this position. Repetition of moves. But if black decides to go after these pawns with the king, for example, like this, and take, the f pawn starts marching, and the king is not fast enough to capture it. It promotes, bishop takes, and king takes, and it's again a draw. So Hikaru escaped with a draw, but it was a very, very tense, very frightening position for him. Good for him. Let's see what he does with the black pieces. Game 2. So f2 pawn is missing. Let's flip the board. We are on the side of Hikaru. Let's see what he does. So the computer plays, actually it plays the London system without the f2 pawn. And Hikaru just follows his strategy, tries to exchange some pieces, exchanges on f4. And here, he doesn't exchange the queens, but rather he launches an attack on white. This is a very fascinating game, by the way. In this game, Hikaru played like a computer with extreme precision. So he tries to activate his pieces here, exchanges the bishops. Yeah, he exchanges the bishops here. And white's king is under some pressure by knights, by the queen. Maybe the other rook will join the party, but this is opposite side castling. White is also trying to attack black here and demolish the position. So in such positions, it is a matter of time. Whoever gets to the enemy king first wins. Will it be Komodo? Will it be Hikaru? The position is still better for black, so let's see. Knight a4, exchange, and the other knight gallops in. Knights are traded, still better for black. He offers the exchange because the exchange favors black, endgames are better for black. This pawn is also weak, so white declines the exchange. And here, a very thematic move, f5. Many people just wait in such positions, wait for opponent to move its pawns, but this is not a good strategy here. f5 is very timely, preventing f5 by white. And yes, you can take en passant with white, but black just takes back, and black is safe. Black protects its position. You can even triple up down this file, but everything will be protected. The g7 pawn is protected. If white goes h6, you can take with a queen, or you can go g6, and it's going to be all right. You will not get checkmated. So here some maneuvers ensued. Rooks were traded. Check. Here, again, queen trade is favorable for black. Here Hikaru prevented h6, which is also a good strategy. But rook g6, nice square for the rook. Now black is paralyzed. This pawn is without protection. So white tries to activate the king. Very instructive, very interesting maneuver. And white starts playing for a win, even though white is down a pawn. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this rook is very powerful. These pawns are weak, and the king of white is much more active than the king of black. So let's see who wins this endgame. Hikaru activates his rook, which is very important in rook endgames, and he gives up a pawn with check to take this pawn. So now it's a matter of whether this pawn will promote. they exchange, they go here, and the march of the pawns begins. d6. Rook e1, protecting this file and trying to promote like this. But a2, this pawn will deflect white's rook. d7, rook d3, attacking this pawn. King c6, check, check, check. And turns out white can do nothing. And it's just a perpetual check. Repetition of moves, a draw again. That was very impressive. If you look at the game review by chess.com's engine, Stockfish, 97.6% accuracy for Komodo, 96.5% accuracy for Hikaru. There were no inaccuracy, no mistakes, no misses, and no blunders. But still, he could not win because it's difficult to win against the top chess engine. So that was game 2. In game 3, Hikaru said after the match that he believes that game 3, even before the match, he believed that game 3 was the best situation for him in terms of odds because he had an extra exchange. He was an exchange up. And even though he's playing black, let's rotate the board. A rook is much better than a knight. So he was optimistic about his chances. Did he manage to convert this advantage? Or was he tricked by the machine? Let's see what happened. c4, and on the first move, Stockfish says it's not the best, it's an inaccuracy. I don't know why, don't ask me why. Maybe because there is no rook here, so no idea. Okay, so Hikaru plays normal opening moves against the English opening, and parties just develop. And here, white maneuvers the knight. This is kind of an awkward maneuver. I don't know why, but I'm not a computer. I'm not rated 3368, so don't ask me why. So c6, preventing those knight jumps in future, and rotating the bishop to this diagonal. You don't want to give up your bishop pair just for nothing. So that's why Hikaru takes the center, opens up this diagonal. Now this bishop is kind of menacing. So they exchange. White tries to block, and here black tries opening up files, open files on this side of the board. Well, logical. Knight attacks the bishop, and here Komodo wants to make black retreat with the rook, and then go here and win the other rook. So this is unpleasant. What to do? Hikaru says, I don't need this rook. Take it. Komodo says, no, I'm not going to take it. Hikaru says, okay, take any of the rooks, I don't care. No, Komodo doesn't take it. Okay, whatever, take my rook. Yes, okay, finally. Komodo took the rook, but you can see that the position is still kind of bad for white, minus 0.72 according to Stockfish, even though the material is equal now because the king is still in the center. This bishop is still on its starting square and it needs some time to activate. This rook also. And the two bishops advantage is something that to consider. They can attack you very fast. This rook could activate, and I would be very cautious if I were Komodo in this position. So what to do? Knight d4, rook attacks the queen, queen moves. And then knight jumps in the attack. It's a strong move, great move, according to chess.com. There are many threats currently, in particular this threat, because this pawn is pinned. So if white does nothing, like h3, I'm just taking the pawn, and I'm winning, because this pawn cannot take, because of the pin. So what to do here? Komodo here looked into the future, activated its special abilities, time travel, went into the future, saw that Hikaru Nakamura is famous for his Bone Cloud speedruns, and it moved the king to e2, which is a great move, the best move in the position according to Stockfish. King e2. Of course, joking aside, this is a necessary move, a sad necessity. You don't want to do that in other positions, but here it's the best move. So you protect this pawn 2 times now. And Hikaru does not let his foot off the brakes. He tries to rotate now his knight maybe here, maybe some other place. Let's see what he does. White tries to initiate some counterplay, but still this square is protected 3 times, so g4 is not possible currently. Hikaru rotates bishop back, maybe, I don't know, with future prospects of exchanging it, if necessary, but finally he exchanges this bishop, because this bishop is more important. Why? You will see that. So he exchanges the bishop, and he moves his queen. And now we see his intentions. He wants to deliver a check from this side of the board, and the king cannot castle because the rook has moved, and the position is not good. He's outplaying the powerful computer. He goes d4, sacrificing the pawn. And once the knight takes the pawn, he goes queen f6, which is a great move. Now Komodo is up a pawn. It's up material, +1, you see? But the position is very dangerous. These dark squares are very weak. And you know, in opposite sides bishops, when opponents have bishops of opposite sides, light square bishop, dark square bishop, the attack is the most important thing. You don't care about the number of pawns. So queen b4, rook c1, infiltrating on this file, king f2, knight g4, brilliant move according to Stockfish, a sacrifice, but a great one, because if you take, you are checked again, and here, queen h1 threatens queen e1 checkmate. No squares for the king. What to do? The position is very, very dangerous. Knight c2 is the only move. You have to give up your knight, because otherwise queen e2 is checkmate and you don't have any good defense. And here, Hikaru took the knight, which is a miss. He could have found the brilliant bishop takes e3. This is crazy. If you take with a pawn, you lose because of this check. This, and black just takes everything. King d1, queen f3, and king c2, queen here, making black or making white move here so that I take with check, and this is lost. So bishop e3, you cannot take with a pawn because rook c2. If you take with a king, I take a rook. And the position is still very unclear. Stockfish says it's equal, but it's very dangerous for white to play. And at that time, Hikaru had very good chances. But he took the knight. Also a good move. Also position is very unclear. Here, white takes a pawn. You take here, and this is the position that ensues. Very, very tight conditions. Living conditions for the king are like in Japan, in Tokyo, where some people live in tiny one-bedroom apartments. You know, they have to preserve space. So this is the white king reality. But thankfully for white has also some counterplay. I don't know why g6 is given a brilliancy sign, maybe because it leaves unattended this bishop, but this is not a blunder by Hikaru because he can take like this and we go to queen endgame, but the difference here is that it is equal. And white can deliver a perpetual check, which he or she, I don't know, Komodo, is it female? I don't know. Well, which they do. So this is a draw. Crazy. I thought Hikaru would win this, and he really was pressing the whole game. He was sacrificing. It was brilliant, but again a draw. So the last and the decisive game, where Hikaru is given 4 moves before his opponent can do something. Prior to this game, commentators were arguing about the chances of Hikaru in this position. He has no extra material, but he has extra time, very important factor in chess. And many said that this is going to be a tough challenge if black plays the King's Indian setup, because in that setup, it's not too important the amount of moves white gets to make. Okay, let's see if it's true. So here, King's Indian setup is played, queen b3, c6, white develops, white doesn't want to just exchange, so white castles. White has a huge advantage in time. White got to make lots of moves. Usually in the King's Indian, by this time, black is already castled. Black goes here or here, sometimes here already. All those moves could be already on the board, but because of these odds, Black is lagging behind. Now d5 is probably threatened, so queen moves out of the way. Everything Hikaru does is like standard classical chess, developing the pieces, taking the center, but somehow he's not that much better, plus 0.6, because black is comfortable in this position. Black just patiently develops its pieces. Here Hikaru decides to trade this dark squared bishop because it is the most powerful bishop in the King's Indian very often. It's called the dragon bishop. Komodo is also dragon. Maybe Hikaru wanted to, humiliate the dragon in this way by forcing him to get rid of another dragon. And here, something started going wrong for Hikaru. He tried maneuvering his pieces maybe to exchange those knights one after another, but black struck back with f5. And the position is objectively equal now, but black is attacking, black is pressing, and it's very dangerous. What to do? Okay, they exchange one pair of knights. Hikaru tries to block the position, like he did against Rybka in their famous game, where he won against the Chess Engine in 2008. Check out the game, the video is in the description, crazy game. 300 moves and he won by closing the position and making Rybka make mistakes. But here, it's not Rybka, it's Komodo, a much stronger engine. And Komodo is attacking, Komodo is opening up lines, and yes, one pair of rooks is exchanged. But this doesn't help. Why? Because the knight is planting on this powerful outpost. Still, it's around equal, but very unpleasant to play. This h3 pawn is weak. This bishop is not too strong. This knight is on the rim. So what to do? The bishop is activated. Here, they exchange some pieces. And black decides to exchange those bishops because this bishop is instrumental for the defense. They exchange. And here, the rook tries to infiltrate on the h file. This is dangerous. Although the position is still equal, this is very dangerous. I think my knees would be shaken. By that time, I would practically be ready to resign. But Hikaru is fighting on. Rook attacks the queen. Queen moves back. Some maneuvering. Rook protects, overprotection of this square. This square is protected 3 times now. But queen tries to infiltrate, but there are no good squares for it. And now, the knight is very dangerous on those squares. And Hikaru decides to exchange the queens, which is a great move, according to Stockfish. He's still a bit worse. Can he survive in this endgame? The amount of pawns is equal, but this pawn will likely be captured. Or will it? Rook g3 is not the best move, but still. Knight d5 is a great move. If black takes, white takes, and this is a great position. 2 pawns support each other, but of course, black doesn't take. Black takes the pawn, and now black is a pawn up. Will it be enough to defeat Hikaru? Nice maneuver, nice jump. And here, Komodo sacrifices its pawn because it correctly evaluates that this endgame is great for Komodo. Because if you take, which Hikaru did, he could have waited, but the knight cannot return. This square is taken from him. And black can just go forward with its king, maybe go forward like this with the king and attack, maybe advance here. I don't know, I'm not Komodo, but looks menacing. So Hikaru decided to exchange. But now 2 pawns, 2 connected pawns are marching down, 2 passers. And Hikaru can win 1 pawn. And he did win 1 pawn. He's a pawn up now, but these pawns are too menacing. And this king is cut off from the action. So white can take another pawn, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He doesn't take the pawn. But now rook checks a couple of times the king, and the king infiltrates here. And in endgames, activity of kings is the most important thing. Even more important than material here. White is a pawn up, white is lost. This is a dead last position. It could be like, I don't know, maybe Hikaru against me, he could hold this, but against Komodo, you will see what happens. King f4, he tries to like do something, initiate some counterplay, but this pawn is very, very powerful. h6, just check, and rook g6, and Hikaru Nakamura resigned and lost this match. The first game, the first 3 games he drew, the last game, the 4th one he lost, and the machine was the victor in this, because if h7, this is a check and a fork, and the pawn is lost. If, for example, I don't know, rook h8, then e2. I think e2 wins, yeah, easily. Or, yeah, e2 is enough. Well, king f3 also enough. These pawns march. So anything wins. Poor Hikaru. Well, he did fight like a beast, and props to him. I really love his interesting style and the fact that he does not shy away from fighting computers. If you are interested in more recaps of games of humans and computers against each other, drop a comment, subscribe. See you in the next video.